The agent from the monitoring division finished signing all the necessary documents and then came to speak to the gathered hunters. My name is Kong Tai-sik from the monitoring division. I believe you've been informed of the situation. I'll keep a very close eye on those three so you can rest easy. Kong Tai-sik then beckoned the three convicts to come closer. They all trudged towards him and presented their hands with a practiced hand of his own. Kong Tai-sik swiftly undid their cuffs. Woo! I thought I was going to die from the stuffiness just now. We ain't even slaves. So isn't it against our rights for you to drag us around here and there like this? The convicts massaged their freed wrists and continued to pile on their complaints. With Song Chi-yul in the lead, hunters entered the gate one by one. Let's get going as well. Jin Woo and Ju Hui also entered the gate, albeit at the same time. Perhaps the trauma from the last incident remained with her because she ever so slightly held on to Jin Woo's sleeve. Goblins were the main enemies for this dungeon. They were the weakest of all man-type monsters out there, so clearing the dungeon itself wasn't hard at all. These strange-looking creatures were weak enough for Jin Woo to fight even one-on-one, even before he got his power boost. Still, Jin Woo did his utmost best to carefully hunt goblins with his bare hands. The S-ranked convicts must have been really excited by the taste of freedom because they were wildly swinging their weapons and energetically ripped goblins to shreds. From that scene alone, it was difficult to tell apart just who the monsters were and who the humans were. There, a forked road with three paths appeared before them. Kong Tai-sik made a suggestion to Song Chi-yul. Since the difficulty of the dungeon is low, how about we split up from here onwards? Yes, let's do that. Song Chi-yul readily agreed to that idea. Jin Woo closed his eyes and extended his perception to the max. Now, which path leads to the boss? He was hoping that maybe the boss would give him a few experience points at the very least, so that soon enough he could pick up on the auras of all living creatures inside the dungeon. Jin Woo opened his eyes and spoke to Song Chi-yul. Let's go left. Okay. Jin Woo, Song Chi-yul, and Ju Hui chose the left pathway. Kong Tai-sik and the three convicts chose the right one, and the remaining two hunters went down the middle one. Jin Woo's heart began beating a little bit faster. The boss was at the end of this passage, although it couldn't be described as strong. A unique and different aura from that of a goblin was leaking out from the end of this cavern-like passageway. He wanted to quickly kill the boss. However, groups of goblins kept jumping out at him every couple of steps he took, hindering their progress. This time, there were around 10 goblins or so. One carried a wooden club, one held a wooden sword, and one even held a long wooden shaft with a stone shard crudely tied around the tip. They had armed themselves to the best of their abilities, but none of them managed to threaten Jin Woo. Haven't you guys had enough yet? Jin Woo frowned deeply. As they steadily cleared the dungeon, screams reverberated throughout the dungeon from somewhere, one after the other. Those weren't screams from the goblins. No, they definitely belonged to humans. Jin Woo, Song Chi-yul, and Li Ju Hui exchanged glances. They thought things had calmed down, only for yet another desperate scream to enter their ears. Song Chi-yul's expression hardened. Let's go take a look. The three of them quickly ran towards where the screams came from. Jin Woo could have run faster than his two companions, but for the sake of their safety, he matched their speeds. Just how long did they have to run? Ju Hui cried out in alarm after finding a person. There's a person there, and it just so happens to be the hunter from the monitoring division. Kong Tai-sik couldn't watch anymore and hurriedly ran towards Ju Hui. Hold on, I'll heal you right now. Kong Tai-sik rapidly raised his upper body and took aim at the center of Ju Hui's neck with his hand full of magical energy. Swish! Just before his fingertip could touch Ju Hui's Adam's apple. Someone managed to grab Kong Tai-sik's wrist just in time. Kong Tai-sik's gaze followed the hand grabbing his wrist towards its owner, and Jin Woo's face was at the end. Jin Woo's eyes were emitting a very strong light of murderous intent. Kong Tai-sik frowned deeply. How dare you, association bottom feeder? Kong Tai-sik yanked his arm loose from Jin Woo's grasp. Now that both of his hands were freed, Kong Tai-sik began pouring out attacks without rest. However, Jin Woo also moved at a speed that didn't lose out to Kong Tai-sik and went on the offensive. Their fists and arms collided endlessly, trading countless blows. Neither of them showed any signs of backing off. Seizing this opportunity, Song Chi-yul quickly dragged Ju Hui away from the area. However, there was one person here who was even more shocked than Ju Hui, and that was none other than Song Chi-yul. Just how on earth was this possible? This fierce battle, unfolding at a scarcely believable speed, made it difficult for him to follow with his eyes. Something like that was expected of a high-ranked hunter, so that was fine. But the Jin Woo fighting that man couldn't have been the same person from Song Chi-yul's memories. The youth was definitely not losing out against a rank B hunter at all. I'm a rank C, and even I can't follow his movements with my eyes. Indeed, Song Chi-yul's gut feeling proved to be right. The Jin Woo in front of his eyes right now was not the same youth from his memories, an E-rank who was weak but possessed a good head on his shoulders. In the blink of an eye, the two traded hundreds of blows, and they quickly stepped back while trying to catch their breaths. Kong Tae-sik couldn't control his curiosity and asked aloud, "Who the hell are you? What rank are you?" Jin Woo summoned the poison fang of Kasaka and while grasping it tightly in his hand, replied rather curtly, "Jin Woo, I'm rank E." Kong Tae-sik felt like someone had hit him in the back of his head. A hunter, who displayed movement equal to his own speed, which was unmatched within the rank B, introduced himself as a measly rank E. "Just now, is he trying to make fun of me?" Kong Tae-sik gnashed his teeth. "No, hang on. Indeed, there was something odd here. If he's really a high-rank hunter, there is no reason for him to be here, isn't it? The jobs these bottom-feeder association hunters did were quite obvious. Their main role was to clear those gates that guilds and freelancers gave up on because of their low monetary values. Their earnings were pathetically small compared to other hunters, and they were not widely acknowledged by other hunters either. In other words, there was a very good chance that this hunter really was an E-rank, only that his abilities were anything but. Still, a fake registrant wouldn't brazenly work under the association like this, so Kong Tae-sik eventually arrived at the only logical conclusion. He's a reawakened. When he thought about it, he remembered the upper echelons of the association getting a bit noisier with a rumor of someone going through a reawakening somewhere nearby. This location and that person was supposedly a hunter affiliated with the association. He should have memorized that name back then, as that matter happened only a couple of weeks ago. If this hunter had been delaying getting a reassignment test for some reason until now, it was very much possible for him to remain as an E-rank and assist the association with their work. Who could have guessed that such a person would show up today? Kong Tae-sik had made sure to perform thorough background checks on the hunters participating in today's raid, but he had missed the existence of this one. I really have terrible luck, don't I? That's the only conclusion Kong Tae-sik could arrive at. I should have asked for more money if things turned out this way. Kong Tae-sik recalled the events of a few days ago while licking his dried lips, sitting in a cafe near the headquarters of the association. The middle-aged man muttered as if he was speaking to himself. "I've heard that no one knows what happens exactly inside dungeons." The man's voice was so soft that Kong Tae-sik had to ask again, "What did you say? This is every cent I have in my name, and why are you showing me this?" When Kong Tae-sik formed a questioning expression, the middle-aged man's head dropped lower. "Among the criminals you're in charge of, there is one who had hurt my little girl. Because of that, she took her own life, and my wife is still in the hospital from the shock." The middle-aged man's voice became tearful. "Yet such a beast will be able to roam the streets again in a few years' time. Do you think I'll be able to rest easy?" The man raised his sorrow and rage-filled face. "I'm sure you can already tell what I'm implying here." The man lowered his head again. "I beg of you, Hunter Nim." A deafening silence descended between the two men. Kong Tae-sik leaned against the back of his chair and fell into deep contemplation. "Can you guess why I chose to work for the association's monitoring division?" "Pardon me." The middle-aged man raised his head. Kong Tae-sik explained himself as a B-rank hunter. "I'm considered as one of the higher-ranked hunters. Large guilds continue to send their scouting offers in my direction all the time, yet can you guess why I persist in doing this job while getting a pittance in return?" I don't know." The corners of Kong Tae-sik's lips arched up. "You see, I find it more enjoyable to fight against people rather than monsters." In that sense, the monitoring division was like a heaven-sent job for Kong Tae-sik. Well, he could beat up other hunters in the name of the law, after all, and he'd end up killing one or two due to unavoidable circumstances. The father of a girl who was raped by those bastards came to ask me for a favor. Those bastards were animals worthy of getting killed, and I simply took care of animals that hurt other people. That was all. The rank E hunter was listening without saying anything, although the matter had come down to this. "I don't wish to hurt you. How about ignoring today's matter altogether? As long as we make this deal here, I promise I won't try anything against you and your group." Of course, Kong Tae-sik couldn't let a potential source of trouble fester. "You should have said those things before you tried your little tricks. You want us to ignore everything just because you failed your sneak attack?" "That man didn't say anything wrong there," Tae-sik smirked in dumbfoundment. "In the end, you want to have a go, is that it? Where did he get his dagger from?" Since before he had noticed it, the E-rank hunter was holding a dagger. "Well, it shouldn't be too important, is it? It didn't matter where that weapon came from." Indeed. What was important here, though, was the type of weapon. Kong Tae-sik quickly concluded his assessment. The class that used daggers and utilized quick movements indicated that his opponent was a close-range damage dealer and most likely his specialty was assassination. What a coincidence that their specialties happened to be the same. However, this guy had only undergone his reawakening not too long ago. The difference in experience should be absolutely massive. He might not even be able to properly utilize the skills at his disposal. Let me teach you a thing or two, as your senior. Kong Taisik extracted a knife from his hips and smirked derisively at the rank E hunter. Can you do something like this? And then Kong Taisik activated his stealth skill, disappearing from the spot. This caused the rank E hunter to get flustered, and he hurriedly looked around his vicinity. Kong Taisik could see his naked panic and confusion quite clearly. That was so obvious. The stealth skill didn't only make one's body go transparent, it concealed the body, the sound, and even the smell. That was the stealth skill in a nutshell. There were only a handful of assassin-type hunters who could use this skill in the entire world. Playing, two daggers collided in the air and sparks flew off. With his stealth skill deactivated, one could now see Kong Taisik's wide-open eyes. What? But how had the rank E hunter's dagger accurately blocked off his own dagger? There are life forms holding murderous intentions towards the player. Kill them all in order to secure your own safety. If you do not follow this instruction, a corresponding penalty will be given. The number of enemies left to kill, 1. The number of killed enemies, 0. Jinwoo confirmed the emergency quest message and breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't a waste of time. He was kind of worried that if Kong Tae-sik didn't take the initiative, Jinwoo wouldn't receive the emergency quest notification. It was quite unlike how it was with Hwang Dong-soo and his gang back then. That was why he tested the system out, and it was as he expected. The moment Kong Tae-sik revealed his murderous intent, the message popped up. The two daggers locked in a deadly embrace continued to push against each other. It seemed that their strength was about the same. It was here when Jinwoo's eyes gleamed dangerously. He got faster. Jinwoo had been displaying an already high level of agile movements, but now that he had gotten even faster, Kong Tae-sik found it quite disorientating. Jinwoo closed the distance in the blink of an eye and sank his poison fang of Kasaka down on Kong Tae-sik's thigh. Nice. The added effects of the Kasaka dagger kicked in as well. It was a bit regretful that the paralysis didn't work, but still this fight had become just a tad easier. Now, however, Kong Tae-sik was a high-ranked hunter himself, so his resistance was nothing to scoff at. His dagger aimed at Jinwoo's vitals continued to fly in. Swish. Jinwoo evaded the blade with only a hair's breadth and also attacked Kong Tae-sik's vital spots. Cold sweat drops formed on the foreheads of both men. Their speeds were about the same. They were moving at the same speed. The two men were inwardly admiring each other's agile movements and continued to clash in a dazzling display of close proximity knife fighting. I got to break this stalemate somehow, Jinwoo thought, gathering strength in his eyes the moment his eyes met Kong Tae-sik's. Kong Tae-sik flinched slightly for some reason. What was that? It worked. Jinwoo knew that he had won. On the other hand, a small earthquake erupted in Kong Tae-sik's eyes. How come my body is? After he had met Jinwoo's gaze, his body felt as heavy as if he was floundering in deep water or some such. His trusty speed began decreasing as well, and wounds on Kong Tae-sik's body increased quickly, one by one. This is impossible. Kong Tae-sik's thoughts became confused and messy. This was, without a doubt, a debuffing effect, but he had never ever heard of a case where an assassin-class hunter was able to use a debuff magic. Assassination was not his specialty. Then if that was the case, what was up with his crazy speed? However, Kong Tae-sik had stopped his train of thought. There, his confusion had rapidly morphed into panic. Instead, Jinwoo succeeded in getting close to Kong Tae-sik's chest and stabbed down on the latter with the poison fang of Kasaka. Kong Tae-sik's eyes shot open wider. Both men knew right away that the victor had been truly decided with that one move. Crimson-red blood pooled in Tae-sik's mouth. It was gushing up from his chest as blood leaked out from the side of his lips. Kong Tae-sik formed a smirk. To actually run into a reawakened hunter inside a lowly rank D dungeon. The dagger in Kong Tae-sik's hand fell to the floor. He continued to pant heavily as he leaned his head closer and whispered something in Jinwoo's ear. Jinwoo silently listened to those last words before pulling the dagger out from Kong Tae-sik's chest, just like a dress slipping off a clothes hanger. Kong Tae-sik crumpled to the floor, lifeless. The expected messages did pop up, but Jinwoo's expression wasn't so good, just like the last time. The aftertaste of killing someone remained bitter, and nothing to feel too happy about, even though the other guy attacked first and initiated this fight. If there were no rewards, then this would be one hell of a loss, a lost situation. Reward 15 additional stat points, huh? Jinwoo formed a confused expression. The reward on offer was far, far less than when compared to fighting Hwang Dong-soo and his goons, but it was a far harder opponent this time. Though it was here that Jinwoo lowered his gaze and ended up spotting something rather odd. There was a spot of flickering light about as big as a coin, gleaming on the corpse of Kong Tae-sik. Jinwoo's eyes grew wider and wider. Jinwoo calmed his trembling heart and quietly reached out towards the chest area of Kong Tai-sik, where that flickering light was coming from. Indeed, he wasn't seeing things. Just now, a rune stone. Are you talking about that rune stone? His heart began pounding even harder than before. The skill Kong Tai-sik used had now become a rune stone and was waiting to be discovered on his body. Stealth was a rare skill that only a select few hunters could use. Jinwoo looked back at Song Chi-yeol. What has happened here? I think it's impossible to continue on with this raid anymore for the time being. You two should leave the dungeon and contact the association. I'll remain here in search of other survivors. Song Chi-yeol instantly realized what Jinwoo was trying to do. He's going to close the gate all by himself. On the way, Jinwoo discovered the cold corpses of Kim Sang-sik and the other hunter. This was the power of a high-ranked hunter. If such a hunter really wanted to, then killing a few lower-ranked hunters could be done in the blink of an eye. Jinwoo's expression hardened as he walked past them. Jinwoo discovered a lone hunter struggling on the ground not too far from him. That crazy beast Kong Tai-sik killed everyone. He killed everyone. What the fuck happened? Did he leave? There's blood on your clothes. Did you get done in by him too? Jinwoo didn't reply and simply raised his head to stare straight ahead, towards where the boss was. A confused, questioning expression floated up on the face of the hunter. It feels like it's a bit stronger than a regular rank D dungeon boss, too. I'm getting really curious about its attack patterns. You see, the convict listened to those words and lost his cool, roaring out at the top of his voice. What the fuck are you even talking about? Jinwoo calmly continued with what he wanted to say before all that. Though, I gotta ask you about something. You remember the girl you raped before? What? Which one are you talking about? Which one? The man asked, rather than answering with yes or no, meaning he had hurt well more than one or two girls. Hunters possessed extraordinary strength, so if they wanted to, they could become a horrifying monster at any time. This man used his strength to violate women until now. With that, Jinwoo's mind was made up. The convict finally realized what Jinwoo was planning to do here. He cried out and shook his head around wildly after seeing the group of hobgoblins. The blue convict's pants began dyeing in a yellow color as well. Jinwoo took a deep breath and chucked the convict among the waiting hobgoblins who picked up on the smell of fresh, living prey. Hobgoblins pounced on the convict all at once and began tearing into his stomach as the convict desperately struggled and thrashed about. The vessels in his eyes burst open one by one, dyeing his eyes utterly crimson red, even though the convict gradually lost consciousness. Hobgoblins greedily and restlessly tore into him. Just what would it feel like to be devoured alive by these disgusting monsters? There it was, a huge hobgoblin, definitely the boss of this dungeon, sat arrogantly over yonder on the other side of the boss room, with its subordinates all too preoccupied with the fresh prey. There was not one guard around the boss itself, which meant that this was the perfect opportunity. Jinwoo immediately dashed past the hobgoblins in the blink of an eye and arrived before the boss. The surprised hobgoblin boss quickly stood up, but before it could complete the action, its head fell and rolled on the ground. The expressions of the agents hardened in an instant. 9 people entered, yet only 3 walked out alive. This undoubtedly qualified as a huge incident, with several similarly bad incidents occurring within a single district. It was little wonder why these association agents felt like they had stepped on an almighty pile of dog poo at this very moment. They wanted to make sure there were no other survivors, but the gate closed on them, so that was no longer possible. This was precisely the reason why Jinwoo waited around until the time limit was almost up. However, with this, the testimonies of the 3 survivors would have to suffice. One of the agents spoke with a complicated tone of voice. Just now, the investigation department has received a telephone call from the chairman of the Junam Gang Industries, wishing to hand himself over. It was here that Song Chi-yeol entered into the conversation. The chairman of the Junam Gang Industries. You say he's the father of the victim and allegedly paid off the hunter Kong Tai-sik from the monitoring division to murder the prisoners. The chairman had confessed to everything after he heard that Kong Tai-sik was indeed successful in killing the rapist. There was nothing here that could be seen as problematic except for one thing. One of the agents asked the part that felt the most suspicious to him. Just who delivered the final killing blow to Mr. Kong Tai-sik, who was a rank B hunter? Just before Jinwoo was about to speak the truth, he recalled the face of Yu Jin-ho. What a missed opportunity this is. But looks like I won't be helping the kid out with his raid quota after all. By making an excuse of him being a reawakened hunter and going ahead with the reassignment test, he'd not be able to humor Jinwoo's plan anymore. Sure, Jinwoo was kind of bummed out about the promised building, but oh well, there was nothing he could do here now. Jinwoo thought as such and was about to open his mouth, but then, it was me who killed Kong Tai-sik. The questioning agent still didn't look convinced. However, Song Chi-yeol replied in a whisper as well. Hunter Nim, are you saying that you brought down Kong Tae-sik? His suspicions had merit. Not only was Song Chi-yeol a rank E hunter, but he had also lost his left arm as well. On the other hand, wasn't Kong Tae-sik often referred to as a high-ranked hunter? Someone who was rank B? Have you all forgotten just who is behind me? Just as the gazes of everyone focused on her, Lee Ju-hee's face reddened, and she quickly lowered her head. Lee Ju-hee was a rank B healer. She hadn't been mentioned until now because her class was not combat-related, but when looking only at her rank, she was a high-ranked hunter just like Kong Tae-sik had been. Why wouldn't a rank B healer be able to defeat a rank B assassin when a rank B healer was lending her aid from the side? Why are you lying to them? Song Chi-yeol replied in a whisper. I thought that there must be a good reason why you were trying to conceal your abilities. Did I overstep my boundaries? Of course he didn't. I've received a lot of your help until now, so I'm glad to hear that I was able to help out you now, even if it's just a small thing. Meanwhile, one of the agents walked closer to the two men. Mr. Song Chi-yeol, why don't you come with us and help us for a minute or two with writing up the report? All right, let's get going then. Would you like to walk with me for a little while? She was talking about that dinner date. He was starving after moving around for a bit today, so he found her suggestion to his liking. Jin-woo agreed with a welcoming expression. Okay, let's, as if they had made a promise earlier. The two young people began quietly walking side by side under the soft lights of the street lamps. Lee Ju-hee's eyes remained fixed on her toes because if she tried to raise her head, her gaze automatically drifted toward her side. She tried very hard not to think about it, but it was of no use. In the past, she found him comfortable to talk to, but now the current Jin-woo was overflowing with a certain sense of power. She found it much harder to talk to him now. As a result, just what happened? He was strong enough to subdue a rank B hunter without too much trouble. He had changed so drastically. Lee Ju-hee stopped walking first and with some difficulty broke the ice. Actually, I think it'll be impossible for me to eat anything today. Let me return this to you. In the meantime, Lee Ju-hee handed over a magic crystal to Jin-woo. It was none other than the same crystal he entrusted to her back in the underground temple. But today isn't the only day, you know. There's no need to return this to me now. Lee Ju-hee shook her head slowly. I'm going back home next week. He heard that she was quitting the life of a hunter, but now it seemed that she was leaving the city altogether. Jin-woo formed a rueful expression. Is it because of that incident back then? Well, it's not simply because of that, but perhaps she ended up recalling the events of that day. Lee Ju-hee's complexion darkened. Back then, when everyone else was trembling from despair, only Jin-woo's eyes burned fiercely with a strong resolve. Lee Ju-hee was nearest to him, so she got to see those eyes. It was like they were shouting out to the rest of the world so they could hear his will to survive. She had no regrets over quitting the life of a hunter since it didn't even suit her personality to begin with. However, she couldn't help but feel really bad after realizing that it would be tough to meet Jin-woo ever again. Would he think of me as a weird person if I asked him about meeting each other again? It was rather unfortunate, but there were some things in this world that she couldn't really do anything about. If you come down to Busan one day, please give me a call. I'll buy you really good sushi. Sounds good, said Jin-woo as he formed a smile. Lee Ju-hee smiled back at him, and so she didn't get to say the words she truly wanted to say. She simply performed a short goodbye and turned around to leave. The way back home never felt this long to her before. After sending Lee Ju-hee home, Jin-woo also returned to his place. In the eastern United States, late at night, Hwang Dong-soo, the main hunter of the Guild Scavenger, one of the top guilds in the entire USA, received a phone call informing him of a shocking matter. Not only was Hwang Dong-soo an S-rank hunter, but he was also about to go to sleep. My older brother is dead. I want you to speak slowly and tell me everything in detail, got that? Hwang Dong-soo inquired. The name of his older brother was Hwang Dong-seok. My older brother and his 8 teammates all died, and only 2 others escaped unhurt, the person on the phone explained. And the 2 who survived were only a rank D and a rank E. Something smelled fishy here. Hwang Dong-seok would never sacrifice his own life for a far weaker teammate. Also, what if that said teammate happened to be a temp? There was no need to even mention it. However, only the rank D and rank E hunters walked away alive while Hwang Dong-seok and other rank C hunters perished in that dungeon. Right now, Hwang Dong-soo was in a far-off foreign nation after being scouted away by one of America's top guilds. Back when he was still in Korea, his brother did everything possible to look after him and be a good brother. He might not have been a good human being, but he was a great and precious brother. Hwang Dong-soo was planning to invite him to the U.S. once he had secured his foothold. But now, to think he would meet an accident before that happened. Huang Dongsu bit his lower lip. Fax me all the information on the 2 surviving members, he instructed. My number is Huang Dongsu. Huang Dongsu ended the phone call and called his manager. Next, on the white pages, photos of 2 hunters. Their names and their brief bios could be seen. The rank D hunter Yu Jin Ho and rank E Jin Woo. Huang Dongsu alternated his gaze between the 2 men's photos and gritted his teeth in determination. I'm sure I'll get some answers from either one if I ask them personally. Laura, what would happen if I were to kill some people in Korea? Do you really mean that? Yes. There was a bout of silence before the woman's voice continued. The states have yet to sign an agreement to exchange hunter criminals with South Korea. Mr. Huang, you are now an American citizen, so you'll get a hearing in a U.S. court instead. Good to hear that. Looks like I'll have to make a trip to Korea for a while. Something happened there. Can you clear up my schedule for a bit? However, Mr. Huang, if you leave so suddenly like this, the operations in the guild will grind to a halt. Tell me just how far my schedule has been booked for. You're fully booked out for the next 2 months. 2 months, is it fine? After that, I'll need some free time, so don't schedule anything. I don't need a long time either, just 2 weeks. I'll only need 2 weeks to pop in and out of Korea. Understood. What should I tell the upper management? Tell them I'm going to my brother's funeral. After Jin Woo and Yu Jin Ho exited the van, the waiting hunters quickly gathered around them. For some reason, there was almost no normal person in this group. Most of them seemed to have some difficulty with their mobility. There was one person who looked to be suffering from an illness, while another was clearly an alcoholic. Not only that, but there was also an underage girl, someone that neither the association nor the guild would admit to their ranks. From a casual glance, she looked to be a high schooler. Is it okay to bring a child here? Jin Ho asked for professional advice, and apparently there was no problem according to the law. Actually, the only reason why people don't hire underage hunters is that there would be hell to pay if something went sideways. Jin Woo nodded his head. In that case, it should be fine, really. Now, only Jin Woo and Yu Jin Ho are going to enter the gates anyway, so the odds of something going wrong are as good as 0%. Indeed, these people were only here to make up the numbers in order to get the permit to clear a rank C gate. One needed at least 10 hunters. After all, that was why 8 extra people had to be recruited, and sure enough, these 8 understood very well why they were here. To these people, all possessed the hunter license but couldn't act as one due to their circumstances. Most who answered the call together were suffering from the hardships of life in various ways. Excuse me. If we really do that, we can get 3 million won. No need to participate in any hunting, no actual need to even enter the dungeon itself. 3 million won per raid for a payment of simply lending one's name so they would be permitted to enter the gates. It sounded just too good to be true. I guarantee you that the terms offered are for real. Yu Jin Ho stood stiffly, looking rather serious. Now even his expression had become grave. However, you are not to discuss any facet of the events that will take place here with anyone. Do not forget that the moment you break the vow of secrecy, you'll be forced to pay back 10 times the money you were paid, as per the contract you all signed. Hunters murmured to each other in hushed whispers. Just what were these 2 young hunters planning to do inside the gate that they offered up such enticing terms? They were curious, but no one came out and asked. We should get started. Understood, Hyung Nim. What is that? It's a full set of reinforced armor crafted by a famous guild of master craftsmen in Italy. Hyung Nim, don't you think we need at least this type of equipment if we were to clear a dungeon by ourselves? Jin Woo slowly face-palmed. What's the matter, Hyung Nim? Unable to watch any longer? Jin Woo reached out, yanked loose the long sword attached to Yu Jin Ho's waist, and dropped it on the ground. Yu Jin Ho tried to bend down to pick up the sword, only to lose his balance and topple over, ungainly, plop. Jin Woo did his best to suppress the rising tides of anger and spoke with great difficulty. While I'm still being civil, take them off. Yes, however, after struggling for a bit to stand back up, Yu Jin Ho called out to Jin Woo. Hyungnam, what now? Please help me, I can't stand up. Jin Woo spat out a long sigh while looking at Yu Jin Ho, reaching out to him. In the end, they agreed on the kid wearing a helmet and nothing else. With a satisfied face, Yu Jin Ho jumped inside the gate. As soon as the 2 men walked into the dungeon, one by one, the remaining hunters all slowly shuffled towards the gate. One of them piped up with a worried voice. Judging from the way you acted, you look like a couple of amateurs. Another agreed while staring at the gate surface. You're right. The 2 people's conversation opened the floodgate of words from the remaining hunters. Everyone began speaking their minds. Now, what will happen if those 2 get killed inside the dungeon? Well, we all got paid the contract signing fee already, so what the hell? The raid leader is only a rank D. Hearing that, everyone else stiffened up from the shock. However, what shocked them even more was the following search result. The dude next to the rank D is only a rank E. Isn't it way too dangerous for a rank E to enter a rank C gate? And an E wants to clear a rank C dungeon? How can that even be possible? Also, the raid team leader has no record of leading a team before. What the heck? Why would these two young men do this? Wasn't this no different than committing suicide? It was not for nothing that the association had set a strict rule of one needing 10 people with 5 rank C hunters as the bare minimum if one wanted to enter a rank C gate. Then this happened. Jin Woo and Yu Jin Ho hurriedly emerged from the gate. Yu Jin Ho was panting laboriously. Steam slowly rose up from the bodies of the two young men carrying tired expressions. Oh, they managed to escape unhurt. What a relief! Hunters welcomed the two with happy expressions. They were all thinking that these two only roamed around the entrance of the dungeon like a pair of lost kids because the time between them entering and leaving was fairly short. However, what was going on here? The expressions of the hunters gradually changed because they all heard someone crying out in alarm. That is why the gate is closing. Everyone hurriedly shifted their gaze over to the gate. Oh my gosh, look, they killed the boss. The gate is turning blurry and illusory, just as it would when the boss of the dungeon was killed. While the hunters couldn't hide their shock and disbelief, Jinwoo utterly disregarded their gazes and quietly asked Yu Jin Ho, "Where is the next one? It's about an hour's drive from here, Hyung Nim. Okay, let's go." Jinwoo and Yu Jin Ho headed straight to the van. Meanwhile, the 8 hunters stared at the duo's backs with completely dumbfounded faces, realizing that they weren't following him. Yu Jin Ho turned his head and called out to them, "Let's hurry up, everyone! We barely have enough time to go to 2 more gates today." The jaws of the hunters all dropped to the floor from that declaration. Those two managed to clear a rank C dungeon, and they are going for another raid too? Everyone present was thinking the exact same thing. Just who are these people? Inside the offices of the White Tiger Guild located in the same district, the next day was the day for the new recruits to start training. Yet how could they have failed to book a single gate until now? "Answer me, Mr. Vice Chief." The Vice Chief, Hyun Ki-cheol, lowered his head in embarrassment and said, "My apologies, Chief. The thing is, there is a raid team that quickly bids for every gate, rank C, opening up in our jurisdiction 250 million won. There is a crazy man who spent 250 million won on a single rank C gate." An Song-min became utterly speechless. The best anyone could hope for in terms of financial return from a gate ranked C was only around 220 million won. Paying 250 million won was, simply put, being a hopeless fool who paid way too much. The upper limit for a single rank C gate set by the White Tiger Guild was 100 million won. One could now clearly see why Hyun Ki-cheol was feeling rather grieved at the moment. Who are these bastards? An Song-min swallowed his saliva and accessed the information on this strange raid team and its members. The leader's name was apparently Yu Jin Ho. First time I hear that name. It was An Song-min's job to scout new recruits for the guild. That was why he had remembered the names of freelancer hunters who had at least displayed a modicum of excellence in the past. One name kind of stood out, Song Jinwoo. Jinwoo, where have I heard this name before? An Song-min did his best to dig through his memory until he finally recalled the incident of the dual dungeon from 2 months ago that had been the topic of a rather lively discussion among those who went there. Indeed, it was none other than the White Tiger Guild that went to assist the association during that event. "Hey, Ki-cheol, do you remember that dual dungeon incident 2 months ago? The one where our hunters had to go and take a look?" "Yes, Chief, I remember. What was the name of that survivor?" "You remember it, it's Song Jin-woo, a rank E hunter." "I knew it." He wasn't entirely sure of it, but, well, he was proven right once more. An Song-min instinctively realized it. There was something fishy going on here. Not once did his instincts, that activated only in these sorts of situations, let him down. "Never!" An Song-min shouted out an order to the rest of the employees in the 2nd Division. "Everyone, stop what you're doing and get me every single piece of data and information on the hunters. Yu Jin Ho, rank D, and Song Jin-woo, rank E, right now." The responses from these excellent employees, when facing a dangerous situation regarding their own survival, simply exceeded one's imagination. It wasn't for nothing that they were called the elites of all elites. Reports came in one after the other, fast. As it turned out, Yu Jin Ho didn't possess any particularly noteworthy background that required immediate attention, disregarding the fact that he was the second son of Yujin Construction's owner. He could be described as ordinary. However, Song Jin-woo was quite a different story altogether. Since the dual dungeon incident, he had been involved in 3 more incidents and walked away from all of them unscathed. When An Song-min spoke in a questioning tone of voice, Hyun Ki-chil quickly followed up, "Not only that, he's a rank E hunter too, Chief." The first time Song Jin-woo and Yoo Jin-ho met was when the latter went for his very first raid. Only the two of them walked away alive, and now these two had formed a raid team, going around like a pair of madmen, clearing 2 or 3 dungeons in a single day. This definitely stinks. What could they possibly be doing in the dungeons, I wonder? Hold on. I remember now. There was a rumor about a really influential owner of a big company busy wooing S-rank hunters in private, doing the rounds, wasn't there? Could it be a single puzzle piece fell to its place inside on Songmin's head? If his guess was right, then it made sense. This guy, he's definitely a reawakened hunter. A reawakened hunter, you say? Hyun Ki-chil's eyes became round dots, resembling a rabbit's eyes, but An Songmin was sure of it. That's right, a rank E hunter was no different from a regular person. If there was an incident, then such hunters were as good as dead. However, this Song Jin-woo kept surviving, totally unhurt to boot. From several large-scale incidents that killed most of the participating hunters, of course, he could be lucky, sure. However, the third and last incident, the situation with this particular incident caused by the agent of the monitoring division, Kang Tae-shik, was rather different from the rest. The record said that a rank C mage combined strength with a rank B healer to defeat Kang Tae-shik. Hunters in the monitoring division all specialize in combat. If Kang Tae-shik wasn't a hunter, he'd try to dispose of the highest-ranked hunter with the low combat potential, the rank B healer. First, there was no physical evidence, but he was getting more and more sure of his guesses being right. Song Jin-woo now possessed abilities matching that of a high-ranking hunter after going through a reawakening process. Yoo Jin-ho coincidentally took part in the raid and saw the abilities of Song Jin-woo, and now Yoo Jin-ho was testing out this and that in preparation to scout Song Jin-woo to his father's new guild. When An Song-min thought like that, everything seemed to click. An Song-min picked up his coat hanging on the back of his chair and quickly put it on. "Let's go," he said, also not forgetting to mobilize his right-hand man. "Of course," Hyun Ki-chil replied. "Pardon me, Chief, where are we going?" "What do you mean, where? We're going to scout a new talent." "Why not? Is there a law against doing that?" An Song-min retorted and hurriedly left the office, causing Hyun Ki-chil to tilt his head this way and that, but he still chased after the senior officer. Now this is so strange, Hyun Ki-chil thought. It had been over 2 years since he became the vice chief, yet it was his first time seeing An Song-min personally go out on a job. "Hyung Nim, is there some other business you need to attend to later?" "No, not really. Why do you ask?" "I haven't seen you hurrying up this much with hunting before," Yoo Jin-ho said, feeling truly astonished. Today he knew very well that Jin-woo was strong, but today he seemed to be on another dimension altogether. But that was par for the course, really. Jin-woo inwardly laughed. Well, monsters in this dungeon were werewolves after all. A title given to a hunter skilled in hunting wolves when facing animal-type monsters, all of your stats will increase by 40%. The buff given by the title Slaughterer of Wolves came into effect against the werewolves as well. How could the monsters from a rank C dungeon contend with him when his level was already so high to begin with, not to mention the effect of that buff helping him out too? Thanks to that, Yoo Jin-ho had been kept real busy while trying to extract all those magic crystals from the dead monsters, even had to drink 5 vials of the HP potion too. He shook his head several times, complaining that he wouldn't be able to eat lunch now after the potions filled him up completely. One couldn't find the addresses of hunters on the association's website. The only things appearing there were the names of hunters and their ranks. A hunter could provide the relevant information themselves, but Jin-woo didn't even leave behind his contact number there. But not only had this guy known his phone number, he was waiting near Jin-woo's home, so without a doubt, he must have gathered enough information before showing up here. Now that I think about it, Jin-woo abruptly remembered something. I sensed a gaze on me earlier today, so I'm guessing that belongs to one of your people, the Hunters, the Reapers, the Night Order, the Shining Star, and then us, the White Tiger. I'm sure you've heard of these names before. An Song-min read off the names of the top 5 guilds in South Korea one by one. An Song-min presented his business card. My name is An Song-min, and I'm in charge of the 2nd Division of the White Tiger Guild, one of the top 5 in the country. Our role is to scout talented hunters and manage them. If Song Jin-woo was any other hunter, he'd have lowered his head 90 degrees before a business card was even brought out, and only then get to the main topic, unless one was an S rank or an A. Pretty much all hunters dreamed of entering the White Tiger. Honestly, An Song-min was hoping for that kind of reaction as well. Unfortunately, Jin-woo was different. not showing much reaction at all. He calmly asked what he wanted to ask first. Why does an officer of the White Tiger Guild perform background checks on someone like me? On Songmin inwardly flinched. We wish to scout you, Mr. Song Jinwoo. We promise to offer you double the amount of terms as offered by the Yujin Construction, no strings attached. On Songmin smiled deeply. Yujin Construction was still in the middle of testing Song Jinwoo out. They are being stupid. The speed at which he could clear a rank C dungeon, the publicity value of a reawakened hunter, and the calmness he was displaying in the current situation, etc. No matter which side it was, there was no need to test this man out at all. There's no way that they have offered anything good since they wouldn't have figured out what his true worth is, thought On Song-min. That was why he was confident of doubling whatever terms Yujin offered this man. No, he was confident of offering something even better. However, Jinwoo's gaze became even colder. How did you find out about me? If Song Jinwoo's voice actually had any physical weight, then that sentence would have crushed him to death, thought On Song-min. What is this? This incredible pressure? It was almost as if the other party was considering him as an enemy. Well, it was true that he had Jinwoo followed and one-sidedly demanded to meet like this. From Jinwoo's perspective, it would be perfectly reasonable to consider On Song-min as his enemy. On Song-min hurriedly explained himself, it wasn't our original intention to pry into your private affairs. We received information that someone was clearing rank C dungeons in our district at an alarming rate, so we were investigating that, and that led us to find out about you, Song Jinwoo Nim. The corners of Jinwoo's lips slowly arched up. On Song-min thought that was a sign of an incoming positive answer, and smiled along as well. Have you made up your mind? You promised to double the amount offered? Jinwoo asked. Yes, that's correct. In that case, how much is the building the White Tiger calls home? On Song-min's face froze for a second. There is. Jinwoo was questioning the financial muscle of the White Tiger, but there was no need to get worked up here. Indeed, this was a great opportunity to advertise his guild. There was nothing to hide and absolutely no reason why he couldn't talk either. This was for the better, he thought. The estimated price is around 50 billion won. Also, although there are different businesses using the building aside from us, it still belongs to the White Tiger Guild, On Song-min proudly spoke. Can you hand over that building to me? Jinwoo asked. I beg your pardon? On Song-min's eyes opened up real wide. He doubted his own hearing, so he asked back, Can you explain what you mean by that? Jinwoo calmly explained himself. Yu Jinho had promised to hand over a building worth around 30 billion won. If the White Tiger's building was indeed around 50 billion won, well, it's not exactly double the price, but Jinwoo could overlook such things. On Song-min couldn't close his slack jaw. Song Jinwoo's career spanned 4 years. However, most of those were spent as a rank E, and it hadn't been long since he got noticed by someone. In other words, he must have gone through his reawakening process not too long ago. Yet, just how incredible was his ability that someone like Yu Myung-hwan, famous for his wild business methods, promised the huge amount of 30 billion won? Could Yu Jinho be lying here? Because On Song-min wouldn't be able to confirm if this was true or not. On Song-min narrowed his eyes, feeling suspicious, as if Jinwoo had read his thoughts. Jinwoo pulled out his phone and quickly dialed a number. That building you wanted to give to me, how much did you say it was? Well, the appraised value is around 30 billion won, but once it's finished and our guild starts occupying it, the value should rise up even higher, Yu Jinho replied. On Song-min was now deeply mired in uncertainty and confusion. That is, I should say that such a big amount is well beyond my ability to, if you just give me some time, I can speak to the higher-ups in the guild. And then, Jinwoo abruptly cut him off. In that case, our discussion ends here. On Song-min became speechless, his head drooped slightly as his mind quickly filled with the reason for this failure. In the end, he simply didn't have enough information. Being too hasty brought about this failure. After he picked up on the scent of this huge jackpot, he got too excited and forgot to move in a more cautious and prepared manner. If he had learned of what Yujin's offer was like, get the full backing of his guild and go about his business step by step, then for now, he needed to report this to the guildmaster. I want to ask you about something, Jinwoo said, causing On Song-min to raise his head. Jinwoo was no longer smiling. Gulp, just as On Song-min swallowed some dry saliva, Jinwoo asked him a question in a low, heavy voice. How many people know about me? It's only me for the time being. I was too anxious to scout you, so I didn't even stop to report to my superiors, On Song-min replied. But actually there was one more person, Hyun Ki-chil, his subordinate but also his right-hand man. On Song-min concealed the presence of Hyun Ki-chil for the time being, He was worried that Jinwoo might get real unhappy if he learned that there were two people instead of one. All the hair on his back stood up at once. "Don't turn around," a cold voice came from his side. Jinwoo, who had been sitting across him until then, had vanished without making a sound, and was now standing right next to him, still not visible to the naked eye. Stealth. Cold sweat drops formed on Songmin's forehead. Could Jinwoo be angry at him? Hunters were, in general, monsters. Songmin knew this well because he got to observe them from a close vantage point every single day. That was why he was always super respectful towards them. Did him spying on Jinwoo and following him around cause an issue here? Should he have requested protection from the guild before coming here? I don't want to see the number of people who know about me increase. So, if I start hearing things about me, can I assume that it came from you, Chief Songmin, or your subordinate? Jinwoo asked. It had been a while since Jinwoo stopped grabbing his shoulder, yet Songmin felt like he was being crushed by the younger man's words. Why did he feel this way? Songmin was so sure of the fact that Jinwoo was fully capable of harming him. His gut instinct, when evaluating people, was almost always right. A thick strand of cold sweat rolled down the side of Songmin's forehead. Who knew Jinwoo could use stealth, excellent abilities, and even a rare skill too? It was not for nothing that Yujin came up with an offer of 30 billion. They aren't ones to start a losing business deal. Indeed, Songmin would never talk about this matter ever again. He would make sure that Ki Cheol, his subordinate, would keep his mouth shut as well. Keeping everything hush-hush was something Songmin also wanted too. Heck, he probably would have requested it himself first. An excellent hunter not affiliated with anyone. There was no reason to increase the competition by spreading the rumor around. "I'll trust you, Chief Jinwoo said. With those words, the presence beside Songmin disappeared completely. Chief Songmin's complexion was poor. Hyun Kichil asked, his voice full of worry. "What happened? Did it not work out with Song Jinwoo?" Songmin's trembling hands managed to pull out a cigarette while sliding it between his lips. He made his reply. "Hey Hyun Kichil, I think we just ran into a far bigger jackpot than our initial estimates." He definitely had to scout that man. That was the only line of thought in his head. Thankfully, there was still a chance. Name, Song Jinwoo, level 39, class none, title, Slaughter of Wolves, HP 7, 220, MP 683, tiredness 0, strength 97, stamina 59, agility 97, intelligence 51, perception 81, reduction in physical damage 20%, passive skills, LV, max tenacity, LV Tar1, high-grade dagger technique, active skills, dash LV 2, intimidation LV 1, vital points targeting LV Tar1, stealth LV 1. Well, no wonder people are beginning to notice me, Jinwoo thought. A strange message followed right after the familiar one, required level. Having only heard this simple message, he couldn't figure out what was going on here, but by the time the following mechanical beep rang, Jinwoo ended up expending a huge amount of willpower just to calm his heart that beat so hard to the point of causing him pain. Class change quests. He was so focused on raising his levels and his stats that he had been forgetting all about a certain column in his status window. Indeed, that would be the third column in his status window, the class. And now, he was given an opportunity to replace that none with another word. He'd be given a class. In most video games, a character would receive many benefits after getting a class. It would be no different with the system, since it operated almost the same as a game. His heart was beating harder and faster now when he realized that he'd be one step closer to the goal of being strong. After going through with this quest, he simply could not calm himself down anymore. Yes and no continued to flicker in front of his eyes. Jinwoo was about to choose yes and take on the quest to change his class. However, he stopped almost instinctively. No, hang on a sec. Who knew just what kind of a quest might show up here? Following right after the notice from his instincts, the warning bells from his brain rang true and clear. Inside his head, he thought, I'm inside a dungeon. A dungeon was one of the most dangerous places in the world. Even though he was fully accustomed to the rank C dungeons by now, a dungeon was still a dungeon. After all, there was no reason for him to increase the risk even more. Besides, Yujin Ho was standing next to him as well. It wasn't as if he didn't trust the kid. No. Still, he didn't have any particular reason to let the kid in on the existence of the system or explain the weird phenomenon that might occur when he changed his class. There was absolutely no one here. Only the dense forest greeted his searching eyes. And, in order to make sure he'd get to enjoy a relatively safe quest, he searched for a mountainside with almost no human presence and found the most suitable candidate. The current time was 1744. There shouldn't be any hikers in this in-between hour. Plus, his current location was an empty spot of land far, far removed from any hiking trails. Time to get started. Jinwoo accessed his mailbox. The message popped up in his view as if it had been patiently waiting for him. Yes, I'm taking it on. The moment he thought of taking on the quest, another message popped into his view, generating a new dungeon. Before he had the chance to interpret what that message was saying, a change took place before him, really fast. The black hole formed right in front of his eyes. That was merely the beginning, too. The black hole, the size of a bean, expanded to the size of a coin, then to that of a volleyball, and eventually, it grew large enough for a person to walk through. Isn't this? Jinwoo's eyes grew wider. He was expecting to see a new message with the contents of the quest pop in front of his eyes, but this, what appeared before him was, without a doubt, a gate. To think a gate would show up here. This one didn't seem any different from the others he was familiar with, only that it was a bit smaller than usual. This is no time to daydream. If I succeed, then a new class and all the rewards that follow will be mine. And if I fail, then I can't even tell what might happen to me, so I need to focus. After taking a deep breath, Jinwoo held the poison fang of Kasaka in a reverse grip and entered the gate. This wasn't going to be easy, was it? Maybe because his class change was up for grabs, there were quite a few restrictions here to contend with. The most important one was that he couldn't replenish his spent energy or stamina and couldn't heal himself using potions or level-ups. The damage would stack. In other words, if he got injured, then that would spell his doom. The exit was blocked off. An unknown grade, impossible to heal himself, and no exit. This dungeon was a pretty risky proposition. If clearing this place was difficult because of all the restrictions, then didn't that also mean there was an amazing opportunity waiting for him at the end? He took one last glance behind him and slowly made his way forward, the torch lighting the way. Just how long did he walk? When he walked for a long, long time, he finally got to a bend in the passageway, and just beyond it he sensed multiple presences. Clank, clank. Whenever this thing took a step, the metallic clang reverberated loudly in the passageway. The noises were getting closer. Jinwoo aimed for the side of its neck. Clang. But he got to hear metal hitting metal instead. The blade didn't go in, it had metal armor. Jinwoo's eyes widened, finally confirming the identity of his opponent. Jinwoo quickly took several steps back. It's a human. He was now facing a knight, decked out fully in a suit of armor. Its face was hidden behind the helmet, and he couldn't see what they looked like. Jinwoo called out to it while thinking to himself, could it be? However, the knight didn't even utter a word and simply lunged in Jinwoo's direction. He couldn't sense the beating heart that a normal person should possess. So most likely it was not a human. He was now facing off against a type of monster he'd never even heard of before. The first one to strike wins. Before the enemy made its move, Jinwoo dashed in first. Swish! Jinwoo evaded the hurried swing of the knight's longsword and stabbed his dagger at various points. Unfortunately, he couldn't damage it. The armor was too thick. Not only was it thick, the surface was smooth as well. So when he landed a straight blow, the blade didn't go in, but simply slid off to the side. It was at this point that the knight swung its sword in a huge arc. Vital points targeting, crack, the tip of the dagger penetrated past the armor. Did it work? However, it must have not suffered any damage since it swung its sword down vertically with great force, not caring at all about the dagger stuck to its side. It's not really that strong, is it? That was Jinwoo's earnest assessment. Probably because of all that heavy armor, its movement was dull and its attack pattern was also rather simple too, only that its defense against bladed weapons was truly exceptional. Jinwoo rolled up his sleeves. Well, he had already fought against an enemy with thick armor that blades couldn't penetrate, the boss monster Poison Fang Blue Kasaka, that broke a steel sword infused with magical energy in one hit. He had experienced killing such a snake before. Compared to the Kasaka, that thing was nothing. A thin smile slowly formed on Jinwoo's lips, since that was a pretty good memory to recall. Jinwoo easily evaded the knight's attack, aimed at his shoulder, slid to its back, and caught it in a headlock, PRK bell, with a pretty sickening noise. The helmet was ripped off. This was the moment when Jinwoo's strength stat exceeding 100 points had begun shining ever so brightly. A simple but concise message announcing the end of the battle popped up. A flickering light indicating the presence of loot came from somewhere on the armor, but Jinwoo's attention was elsewhere. What the heck? There was nothing inside the helmet he held in his hands. It was totally empty. He quickly checked inside the armor to make sure, but it was the same story, empty. Does that mean he was fighting against a suit of armor that was moving by itself? Just as he arrived at his conclusion, two more knights rushed into view from around the bend. It seemed that they had somehow sensed the unfolding battle. The knights discovered Jin Woo, and, as if they had made a prior arrangement, they unsheathed their long swords in unison. Jin Woo tossed the empty helmet away and loosened the muscles on his neck and shoulders. He now knew how to fight these things. So this was the real beginning. A slight grin formed on Jin Woo's lips as he stared at the knights rushing towards him. His first step in clearing this dungeon proved to be on the right track. Was it because of all the restrictions? The loot drop rate turned out to be rather excellent. Jin Woo only defeated 3 knights, yet 2 of them dropped an item each. As far as percentages go, that was 66.6%. It was an unimaginably high drop rate compared to other instant dungeons. Rarity B, type armor, reduction in physical damage 7%. Jin Woo picked up the breastplate, and as expected, a message regarding equipping the armor popped up in his view. The breastplate disappeared from view. Jin Woo summoned the status window and confirmed his stats. It really went up. Jin Woo felt around his chest area. He couldn't feel anything weird. He got 30,000 gold in one go. Was it because knights were supposed to be wealthy or something? He abruptly remembered that most humanoid-type monsters usually gave out more loot than any other types in video games. During the past 2 hours of hunting inside the dungeon, he met 4 different types of monsters: knights, mages, assassins, and archers. Is it stealth this time? An assassin type suddenly vanished from his senses. Jin Woo didn't panic and extended his perception to its fullest and soon enough picked up on the presence sneaking up on him from behind. Swish, the assassin received a fatal wound and turned into a wisp of black smoke before disappearing from his view with a scream. Jin Woo turned around to continue on his journey, but then a flash of blinding light exploded right in front of his eyes. A mage had hidden itself and quietly completed a light magic spell. Kaboom! However, Jin Woo was already well behind the mage by the time that happened. Jin Woo didn't miss this opening and swung his dagger diagonally. The mage, too, turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared. Jin Woo had gotten hit by one of those way back when he got too careless. The thing was, he was already ready to react as soon as he began sensing mana gathering around in a single point, Yujin Ho's light magic. Jin Woo wasn't dumb enough to get hit by a similar magic to that guy's. This was one of the reasons why he thought that all these battles were like him, studying and revisiting his past fights. That wasn't all, though. In order to defeat different types of monsters, he needed different stats. For knights, it was strength. For assassins, perception. For archers, agility. And finally, for mages, it was stamina. The whole thing was set up in a way that if any of the corresponding stats weren't high enough, he'd have a real hard time trying to deal with the individual monsters. If his strength was lacking, then he wouldn't have been able to cause enough damage to the knights. And if his perception was too low, he'd have gone through hell in order to locate the assassins. Raising stats evenly had really paid off dividends here. His intelligence stat was still on the low side, but all he had to do there was to economize his MP usage. Jin Woo summoned the pouch as soon as it showed up in his inventory and took several gulps. Gulp. His fatigue was piling up noticeably now. Just how far was he supposed to go here? Could there be no end to this place? Jin Woo put the empty pouch down on the ground and placed his hands on his hips. It had been over 3 hours already since he entered this dungeon. Both his body and mind were getting fatigued now. Jin Woo sat down and leaned against the cave wall. The tiredness stat had sneaked up to a dangerous level above 70. His body and mind would start to get negatively affected. He needed to take a short nap and decrease that stat right away. Jin Woo leaned his head against the wall. Sleepiness came over him almost instantly. However, he heard the sharp whistle of air parting ways. Time slowed down and Jin Woo accurately snapped, catching the flying arrow with his hand. Jin Woo's eyes opened up. He saw an archer knocking another arrow from some distance away. So, it was still too early to fall asleep, was it? Jin Woo summoned the poison fang of Kasaka once more and stood back up. Crunch. One single punch caused the knight's breastplate to crack and cave in. The lifeless monster slowly slid to the ground in between Jin Woo's stretched fist and the wall. Jin Woo looked down on his slightly skinned fist and clicked his tongue. Only a short break would have taken care of such a small wound by now. However, these abominable monsters didn't give him a moment to rest. Still, he earned quite a lot in the meantime. Gatekeeper's necklace, superior knight's breastplate, intermediate assassin's shoes, inferior archer gloves, superior mage's ring. Other useful things he found along the way were now all safely tucked away in his inventory. It would have been nicer if he found a weapon, though. Finally, the torchlight revealed the end of the road, and that end was blocked off by a huge castle gate. It was quite rare to see the boss room with a door like that. Naturally, he recalled the dual dungeon. No one was adequately prepared back then, and because of that, the losses incurred were great. However, it was different now. Jinwoo reached out and grasped the handles of the doors. The heavy-looking doors slid open rather smoothly, as if there was some sort of an unseen mechanism. Boom! The door to the boss room finally opened as soon as he set foot on this floor. Countless torches lining up the walls lit up all at once and illuminated the interior, as he thought, almost the same as back in that underground temple. Jinwoo maintained his vigilance. He scanned his vicinity and cautiously stepped forward. Several giant stone pillars stood erect to his left and right. At the far end of this room, he could see a tall throne. It was as if this place reminded him of the king's audience chamber from a fantasy movie. Of course, the scale was noticeably larger, though. A few steps later, the door issued a loud bang and closed shut behind him. Slam! Jinwoo glanced back but didn't panic. He already expected something like that to happen. Jinwoo swallowed his dry saliva. He only had to take one look at the creature's red name floating just above its head to know that the boss had finally made its entrance. It was a knight wearing a suit of blood-red armor. The way it was kitted out from head to toe in metal armor was similar to other knights he fought so far, but quite unlike those that looked dull and slow. This thing looked incredibly agile.